many of you know, if you watched my recent video, I'd invite you to watch that after you watch this for some context. Many of you know that I just got done being very, very, very sick. The kind of sickness, and it was not just me, it was also two of my children. By an act of God, I guess my wife and our youngest child didn't get sick, which is good, and I'm very thankful for that. But this sickness was was a stomach bug brought in by my oldest child, and into the house by my oldest child. And he was the first to get sick, and then I got sick, and then my little girl got sick. And I couldn't eat anything for a long time. And I do mean a long time. It was total of a 5-day fast, basically. At day 2.5, I made the mistake of trying to eat something, and it made me really ill. But the sickness we got was the kind of thing that gives you explosive, almost uncontrollable diarrhea if you eat anything or drink anything. I had to force myself to stay minimally hydrated. If anything beyond that, it would send me running to the bathroom. And it was a kind of sickness that, you know, that smell at a hospital that they try to, if you go to any part of the hospital that's not basically the maternity ward, any other part where they are dealing with actual sickness on a regular basis, there's that smell of that we associate with the hospital that is essentially the antiseptic trying to cover up the general illness smell. That was the smell in my house for several days, minus the antiseptic smell. It was very bad. By the time I noticed that smell, I realized I probably should have gone to, check myself in gone to the doctor or something. But I didn't do that because I am a typical stubborn-headed male. But it was basically the longest fast I'd ever done. Again, because from Wednesday night until like Sunday or something, I didn't eat anything. And the one attempt I'd had to eat something didn't stay down. My body didn't absorb anything. So how do you break a long fast? Because a lot of people in carnivore spaces love to do long-term fasting. And it's usually good for weight loss. And I say usually because if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that in this calendar year 2023, I gained a ton of weight, and I'm not sure how it happened. So, to give you an idea, at the end of this 5-day fast, I was 10 pounds heavier than I was before. Blows my mind, and if you have any idea how that works, let me know in the comments, because I'm as lost about this as you are. But here we're going to go over, there's 3 kinds of ways you can break a long fast safely on a carnivore diet, because if you go outside of like carb-restricted diet spheres of any kind, people will often tell you to eat like low-fat things, which is good. That's a good idea as a general rule, right? You'll have people will say, start with some juice or that kind of thing, right? A little rice, whatever. Obviously, that doesn't work for us here if you're on a carnivore diet. So what I did was, being weak from not eating anything for 5 days and having all my fluids violently expelled from my body several times during that time, to the point where I tried to mow my front yard around day 4. A process that takes 10 minutes, and it took me 30 because I had to keep stopping because I was just completely winded. I started with bone broth, and I didn't have the energy to make my own bone broth. There were people who were telling me, "Oh yeah, just go get go get your Instapot out." I have one. No, that wasn't going to happen. But I happened to have some Kettle and Fire bone broth. Yes, it uses plants, but if there was anything in life where we could try that rule of plants for therapeutic purposes, like in this case, it was definitely the case. So I had a bone broth, some Kettle and Fire bone broth. That was the first thing I did. There are other things you can have also if you don't want to have bone broth. If you think you can handle solids, because fat can really upset the stomach when your stomach is super sensitive from a long fast or from dealing with illness, you want to go with the most ultra lean cuts of meat. So this is going to be things like chicken breast tenders. That's where they take the chicken breast and they cut it in such a way that there's pretty much no fat per serving, maybe half a gram. So if you're worried about, how dirty commercial chicken is, this is like the one cut where there's so little fat that it might just cook off. have, 1 ounce, 2 ounces, 4 ounces of that. The other key thing here, small amounts, folks. Bone broth is a liquid, so you probably have, 2, standard drinking glass of it. But with these kind of meats, if you've done, fast for 4 or 5 days, or you were sick like I was, keep it to small amounts. Another cut that you could think of are going to be like pork tenderloin. Again, this is where they've cut it so, cut the actual loin like deep into the loin, so there's not a lot of fat there. Pork is actually pretty easy to get very lean cuts of, by the way. You can find just cheap cuts of pork in general that are very, very lean. There's a whole list of them out there. You can go with like ultra lean ground beef. We're talking the 96% lean, 92%, 90% lean, those kind of things. Usually the little more expensive versions if you're wanting to keep it to ruminant animals. But that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is Carnivore Crisps. They have several ultra lean varieties. This would include the one I had, which is the top round steak, the eye of round steak. Ultra lean, ultra lean. My package that I have here of it is like 4.5 grams of fat for 1 serving, 2 servings in the bag. They also have a pork one and a chicken breast one that are super lean. Again, lean is actually the key here. We're inverting the logic that we normally have on a carnivore diet, because normally when eating carnivore, we tell ourselves you gotta eat the fat with the lean. It makes sense, right? But here that doesn't work because, again, your stomach can't handle the fat. It just simply can't, which is something many of us are going to have a hard time remembering when those stomach bugs hit, or when you've decided you're going to go many days without eating. I can't eat egg whites, so I can't talk about experience with them. I am allergic to chicken egg whites. I don't know about duck or goose egg whites. I literally can't find them in a store, even the natural food stores in my state. And none of the farms that sell them around me have anything shorter than a several month-long waiting list. So that just doesn't work. But I suppose you could also make egg white scramble. That would probably be good. Although, of course, when you're scrambling an egg, you do run into the problem of you need some kind of a fat to cook it with. And I have never heard of a carnivore that was okay with things like cooking sprays, those fake oils that you put on your pan. So proceed with caution on that one. Use a judicious amount of the oil, your tallow or lard or whatever you're using. Just be careful when doing that. Again, because if you have been doing a long fast or recovered from essentially an illness-induced fast, your stomach is not going to probably be too up for a lot of butter or ghee. This might be a time to try ghee instead of butter, simply because of the lack of the solids, the dairy proteins that are still in butter, that can upset some stomachs. But those are my picks for your ways of breaking a long fast, voluntary or involuntary, like mine was. What are your picks? So let me know in the comments. If you want to try Carnivore Crisps, got a link in the description box with a code you can save a little bit of money on. Let me know what other ways you have for breaking a long fast. This is not a 24-hour fast. This is several days in length. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. So does sharing this on social media. That helps too. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for your time today.